Spirituality sucks. Why? Because it's an ongoing process of figuring out who you are, why you're here, and how to live authentically to what your soul desires. On this journey of spirituality, I talk a lot about conscious awareness and being aligned and all of the stuff that makes sense, right? That you want to hear the positivity, but a lot of times we don't talk about the negativity. And the negativity is we're human. We have to feel. We have to break. We have to have pain. That's part of the awareness journey, right? Simply being present and knowing that you can meditate and worship and find motivation and mantras and things to make you feel good still doesn't stop the human experience. And it sucks. And I'm not saying being a human sucks, but what I am saying is the process of learning how to just be is not easy because it literally takes a constant connection to self. Like you have to know that when you're feeling a certain way about a topic or a situation, it's okay to be like, this sucks. Like, I want to be human. I want to be bad. I want to be pissed off. I want to throw things. I want to break things. I want to give up, right? That's the natural way of the human condition. And it doesn't mean that being a human means we're weak, but we are fragile, right? Bones break, wounds happen, skin can burn, we get cuts. Like, we're not invincible. We're not made of metal, right? We're not robots, even though we try to act like we're robots, right? We try to act like we can run this body into the ground and nothing's going to change and that we can just keep doing the same thing we're doing over and over and over and expecting new results, but that's not the process. Spirituality is literally teaching yourself how to have a relationship with knowing that at one point in time, we were born into this world, right? And we were giving all the script and title and names of who we are. But we also have the opportunity to be reborn over and over and over again. And a lot of the times what we feel, when we talk about ego deaths, what we feel is happening to us when we talk about like, oh my gosh, like why does this keep repeating? Why does this keep happening to me? And I've been in this situation. I want people to realize that I get on this app, I get on my platforms to speak because there's a part of me that wants to believe and know that things will always get better. And they do. In the moment of things happening, it might not feel like it, but things do get better when you allow yourself to see how you want to move throughout this world. Do I have everything that I want in this present moment? No, but that's life, right? Everything that we desire is always going to modify, evolve, and change. It's just the human condition. What we think we want yesterday was not what we want today. What we want today is probably not what we want in the future. Things literally change all the time. So the part of the spiritual journey that sucks is that it's ever evolving. So once you get to a place of feeling settled and happy, bam, you have an ego death. Bam, you have, what do they call it? A dark night of the soul. Bam, some trigger from the past of your childhood conditioning where you thought, I thought I was good. I thought I was fine. It's like, nope, you did all this just because you wanted to prove a point, right? And it just keeps coming back and coming up and coming up and coming up. And I remember there was a time when I lived in the town, a small town in Iowa. It's called Fairfield. I think it's one of the most cutest, beautiful towns I've ever lived. I have nothing negative to say about the town. But, I mean, if you watched Oprah, she went there before and they talk about it's like the town of meditation and people stopped and meditating at this certain time and they took on certain cultural practices, right? Great in concept. The people were still miserable, right? That didn't change anything. Again, not saying that the people were horrible, but they still were going through things where they were just frustrated with life. Everyday human conditioning. Remember, you're not here to change other people, so other people don't want to be changed. So you're going to have to still learn how to live with them. So while you're over here doing your meditating and living your best conscious life and eating healthy and doing good, there are still people who will want to eat crap, do drugs, sleep around, spread gossip. They don't care because you're not on the same journey, right? And so when I was in this town, I met a lot of good people who were starting to get to their threshold and precipice of anger. Like, Why? Why do I have to be so motivated? Why do I have to stay positive? And they get to walk around and be narcissistic a-holes, right? But I remember one of the ladies, she was talking to me and she was like, I could see it in her eyes. She was like, I'm just tired. I'm frustrated. I'm pissed off. And me being me at that time, I didn't understand. And I will take ownership of that. I was just like, suck it up. Get over it. Like, and I know now that those weren't the best words to use, but she was at that point where she was lashing out at others versus going internally and figuring out why she was so frustrated with needing to stay positive. And it's like, love, she was going through a divorce. She was a single mother. She had a lot of stuff on her plate. So I understand, like, real life was getting to her. Okay, so like just being simply spiritual is not going to change the real life reality of your human emotions. She was sad, she was hurt, she was going through things where she's like, I don't know what to do with this energy and I need to put it somewhere, but it's frustrating because everyone's telling me to just be positive. Now, in that moment, I wasn't telling her when I said suck it up to be positive. And I explained this to her. I said, listen, being angry is not going to change what's happening. Figure out why you feel the way you feel. Me at that time, I was in my, I would say, late 30s, early 20s. So I was still learning how to just be me. I don't think people understand. In your 20s, you are not a full-grown adult. Yes, on paper you are, but biologically, you are still learning who you are as a human being. So I was still trying to figure out who I was. I was still figuring out my masculine energy, my feminine energy. I still thought at the time that my feminine energy meant I had to express myself in ways that were generally associated with the gay community, right? I am gay, so that's not a big deal. But I was thinking like, oh, let me wear more brighter colors. Let me try to dress up more and be more sensual. And all. Those are all beautiful things. But real feminine energy was just learning how to be vulnerable with someone else in that moment, or be vulnerable with myself. Softness is femininity, not being just the expression of, but also being the actual concept of, right? So for me, I was still learning that. My masculine energy, I was running away from it, pure and simple. I did not want to own a house. I didn't want to have a stable job. I just wanted to be free and frolic and just go be a hippie dippy, live off the land and all that. Again, beautiful in concept. But as a grown adult male, it was crazy that I was walking around looking for somebody else to take care of me that way, right? There's a lot of adults who do this because we have those inner child wounds when we're looking for someone to save us. I can admit wholeheartedly, I was looking to be saved. And I thought like, why? I'm cute enough, I'm nice enough, I'm spiritual enough, why do I? Because that's the point. People could still see my wounds. I was bleeding all over the place. I was still trapped in a mindset that was very patriarchal, where I thought that if I was the feminine energy, that I was supposed to be the one who got everything handed to me. Now again, I'm not saying that biological women don't deserve that treatment, because again, they bore children. I'm not saying that women on the spectrum who are transgender or anything else don't deserve that treatment. What I'm saying is, me, who identifies as a cisgender male, goes by he, and I respect all of the the titles of they, them, and that, because I still go by they and them sometimes, and my friends call me she once in a while. That don't bother me because I get it. They're saying like, girl, your energy. Like I'm one of the girls sometimes. I can kick cat and shoot. But coming back to reality, I'm still a grown man who had to have a job, who had to have foundation. And I say this of all humans, all adults, male or female. You're supposed to have foundation of self, foundation of principle, foundation of discipline, right? Doesn't matter what it looks like on paper. It's knowing that you have the spirit and the energy to say that I am disciplined and self enough to know that I have to be a logical, functional human being in this human logical world. Even though I am a spiritual soul being who wants to be free and just live as free as can be with no responsibilities or no repercussions of thinking about what other people feel or think about me, but that's not realistic, right? That's the part of the spiritual journey that sucks, because I had to be honest with myself and just think about, what am I really trying to do? When you're living in ways that don't match how you feel, that's spiritual misalignment. It's okay to live how you feel, but you still have to understand that we're in a 3D world that has responsibilities, right? When I talk about responsibilities, that means you have to get up and wash your butt once in a while. You gotta brush your teeth. You have to drink water. You have to eat, right? These are responsibilities of the human body, because if you don't, the option is death, decay, rotting, right? If you don't take care of yourself, it falls apart. We already know this, but people still choose not to do it. And that's when you can tell that someone, their ego is broken, their soul is misaligned. When the ego gives up, which is the human flesh, that's when you know that the soul is misaligned. Because the soul is supposed to show you and indicate that you're on the right journey. This is why I love past life connections and understanding. Again, people don't have to believe that they were Joan of Arc in another life or a turtle in another. I don't care if you believe it or not. Life is life. If we say, going on the scientific belief, energy is neither destroyed nor created, it's recycled. That means that energetically, we have been everything. We have been every person, every being, every ancestor. It just repeats itself, right? That's one concept. Knowing that means that we now have the choice and responsibility to choose what legacy we leave in our current soul existence. And so when we do past life regression work or do shadow work, that's when you get to look back and say, wow, I feel connected to this thing that reminds me of the past, that I can see where I was lost. I can see that if I only was a rock who sat still and never had mobility, why now I move all the time and I want to go everywhere and I want to feel free, right? It's just a spiritual connection to open up your mind. It doesn't have to be literal. You can make it literal. I don't care. What I care about is the bridge. The bridge of connection is what helps us align back to self. And I always say this, I am a bridge keeper. My journey that I've chose on this earth is to connect the physical to the spiritual. When you walk across the bridge of spirituality, it is no rules. There are no rules and concepts you have to follow. There are human conditions that say you have to do it a certain way, but there really aren't. If you want to go hug a tree, hug a tree. If you want to walk barefoot around the city, do so. Yes, there are things and obstacles like glass and dirt and germs, but that's up to you, right? Because the spiritual self is saying, this body is my body, it's my vehicle, and however I choose to use it is my choice. So when we do that, we have to understand that we're not always going to get what we want, right? Like, that is the part of spirituality that sucks, is I have been what we call a good student for a very long time, until I realized being a good student doesn't guarantee that you're going to get what you want. You can have straight A's in school. Remember when you were in school, that kid who has straight A's, perfect attendance, all those accolades, right? Some of them graduate and they go off to have a wonderful career in life, and some of them graduate and they're like, I still have nothing to show for it. Because at that point in your life, it's more about discipline than it is actually getting rewarded for what you do. That's the spiritual journey. You're not rewarded because you're spiritual, you're rewarded because you understand how to have discipline in the human ego, which allows you to then step out into this rigid world of rules and laws and fictional ideas and ideologies that humans make up based on, again, distorted egos, and find a way to play the game. I know no one wants to hear that, but that's just the truth. You have to learn how to play the game. And the game is, I know that inside of me, you can't break me. There's nothing on this earth that can break me. There are physical things on this earth that can break my physical body, yes. But there are not any type of people, hardships, conditional things that I've gone through emotionally or spiritually that have broken me yet. I'm still going, I'm still creating, I'm still producing. That's who I am and will always be who I am. And so this is part of the journey that, again, when you hear it and people talk about it, what's become very inspirational for me is when I hear celebrities and people talk about, I did this for 8 years consistently, 10 years consistently. Do you know how long 10 years is in the human life? Like, that's why people be like, oh, that's too long. But at the same time, in the dualistic aspect, it's really not. It flies by quickly. Like, I have been, when I started my business and I started producing and making content, I was literally green as green can be. I thought that if I just posted consistently every day, that was enough. No, that was just giving me practice to get prepared for traction, to learn how to keep creating and open up the floodgates for myself, right? Again, it's not for others. If you're creating for others, you're never actually creating for self. Creating for self is how others see you. If you're creating for others, you're searching to be seen, and you'll never be seen, because there's a sea of people out there trying to get attention, and you can tell when someone's trying to get attention versus being authentically themselves, right? It's very easy to see, because all they're doing is putting on the uniform, speaking the language, but there's no output. Let me say it again. They're putting on the uniform, they're speaking the language, but there's no output. Output is frequency. If someone speaks to me and says, you gotta be all you can be spiritually, and you got the music in the background, right? And they're just talking slow, and they're doing this. Instantly, most people could tell who's been on this journey, like, they are full of crap. Spirituality is not a voice. Spirituality is not what you wear. It's literally the frequency of saying, here's my experience, here's what I've been through. If you connect, you connect. If you don't, you don't. Do what you will with it. And when I'm listening to somebody, what I know they've really been through it, because there's something about experience that is so ethereal that you're like, there are patterns of connection and correlation where it's like, yeah, when you're swimming and you walk into the water and you feel that first moment of if it's cold, if it's warm, right? And you get the chills and you're trying to get your body temperature, and then you go in and you got to actually dunk your head in the water. And in that moment, if you don't plug your nose, then you get that stinky, salty smell in your nose and the taste of it burning in your throat, and then your eyes, you got all of that is only understandable if you've dunked your head in water. But if you're like, oh yeah, I just go in the water, open my eyes and breathe. Most people are looking at you like, okay, well, there's a lot more to it. There's more nuances to it. That's the part of understanding the spiritual journey. That's why it sucks, because it's individualized. It is not going to be exactly the same across the board. Yes, there are things that connect, that make us see that, yes, this person has done the work. They are on the journey with me. They get it. That's beautiful. But when you have that, when you're not reacting to life, you're responding, you're in a place of spiritual connection, right? I still react to life. I also know how to respond to life. That's the duality of spirituality as well. Just because you've practiced it for years and you understand what you're doing does not mean that you're never not going to have a moment of reaction. It happens because it gets to a boiling point of you blow up sometimes, and that's okay. I want people to remember, you don't have to be perfect in spirituality. You don't have to be perfect in your journey of learning self. You just have to do it over and over and over and every day again. There was one part, I don't even know, I heard somebody say it years ago, and I took the practice very literally, where it was like, you have to do things behind closed doors that no one is ever going to know you did, and be okay with not ever saying you did it. Because that's teaching you how not to live in your ego. There are times I want to be like, oh my God, I did this, I did that, I did. But for me, what purpose does that serve? None. It just sounds very braggadocious. It sounds very condescending. It sounds very egoic. And that's not who we are. Again, the ego is not bad. It's here to protect us. But when it gets to a point of just projecting for validation's sake, then yeah, it's a problem, because validation is not going to get you everything you want. Now, let's be real. There is social credibility. Credibility is a form of validation, but that's because it's resonating with those who understand the journey and the experience. Egoic validation, where you're just seeking attention for attention's sake, but now you have all eyes on you and you don't know what to do with it, you will see somebody burn out and fall apart real quick. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of people fall into, I would say, for celebrities, when they go from, oh my God, they have so much potential, and then they're using drugs to the point of numbing and being absent, because they're in a world that's telling them they have to be validated by others' approval versus validating themselves for the gift that they were sharing in the first place. And if you allow yourself to fall apart to that world, or be sucked into a place where you're not listening to your own heart, then yeah, it's easy to become somebody else's pawn on their game. That's why I say you have to know that, again, I have learned that I want to do it all. Let's have a vulnerable moment. I want to do it all, so I do it all. Has that gotten me the results that I wanted? No. There are days when I wake up every day and I'm like, I start doing that comparison thing, which they say is the death of you. I should be further along. At this age, I should have this. But that's not my journey. I've learned a long time ago that, again, even when I got into astrology and I learned as an Aquarius, most stuff happens to us depending on our past lives. So again, I've had journeys of self-worth. Again, if you start out as Aquarius and you have a really heavy, rough life in the beginning, more than likely you're going to get everything later. If you start off as an Aquarius and you get everything in the beginning, more than likely you're going to have hardships later. I'm not saying that it can't be balanced throughout or a mismatch, whatever. I'm just saying that energetically speaking, I've learned that we are karma, because there is things when I tell you, when someone would do something to me and I got retaliation, it literally came back to me instantly. Anytime I lied or told a mistruth when I was younger, it came back to me instantly. And I promise you, it just left me stunned, because I'm like, why this person can lie their ass off all the time and seem to get away with everything, and then I tell a little lie and then my whole world blow up. That's Daddy Uranus and Saturn right there, right? Mama Uranus and Saturn, they're getting me. They're like, baby, because in your past life, you did this to people. You hurt people. You mistreated people. And I can see that, because you know why I believe that? When I have visions, when people talk about you have darkness inside of you sometimes, my darkness is dark. I have some really, like, when sometimes you're watching those movies and you're like, how does somebody's mind create this? How does somebody's mind go this dark? Because they're living through their darkness. Hopefully they're not actually expressing it physically, but creatively, whatever, do you. And so for me, what I've done is I transmute my darkness into light. So I choose to use all my dark experiences and all the things I've gone through to tell it in a lighter way, to give hope and reflection back. At least that's what I desire that my reflection does. I don't know what it does for people, but I know for myself that I've been through enough hardships, and I know people like to hear the stories. And I'm one of those people where I share it here and there, but I don't like talking about all the sad stuff that happened to me just to get here, because I know that they were just moments in time. Now, I do understand that people need to hear it because it gives them hope that they'll make it out, and I understand that, and you will. If you made it this far in the video, thank you, because that's the point. Sometimes you gotta sit through some stuff to get to the good stuff. And that is the part of the journey that sucks. Again, it's never gonna be perfectly perfect. There are some people, they say, I'm an instant manifester. I can do whatever. Okay, well, that's human design, right? Actually knowing your human design is good. I'm a projector, which means waiting for the invitation. It doesn't mean I sit around idly on my hands and just wait for someone to hand me something, but it does mean that I work best when energy comes to me, when I'm sought out, when people ask me questions, when people engage with my content. That's what makes me thrive. That's what makes me come back and give more, right? Versus me, when I was younger, I would just go out and try to tell people how to live their lives and give them advice unsolicited, and people didn't like that. There was a lot of pushback. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to help. And people are like, no, you're judging me. And I didn't understand. In my mind, it didn't come off as judgment. But when I had it happen to me, I felt judged. And that's the part of the human that we have to be real about, where it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Yep, got it, noted. And that's when I learned to pull back. That's when I learned to start really listening to my own inner journey and where I was guiding myself. Again, it's about awareness, connection, and alignment. If you do not have the awareness to connect the dots to what's working and what's not working, then you will not be aligned, right? So for me, what works is not trying to force stuff to happen. Allowing things to just come to me, having the awareness that all I have to do is create. When I create, the connection is made. Once the connection is made, things will align. For some people, as generators and manifested generators, their awareness is, I have to push. I have to be salesy. I have to do this, because a part of them comes alive when they do that. So when they go out and sell and push and create that way, then they get the connection that they desire and it becomes alignment. When I tell people it's really hard to watch others be salespeople, I am not. Why? Not because I'm not good at it, not because I couldn't sell the product, because in my heart of hearts, I don't enjoy pushing something on people because I don't like it pushed on me, right? That is just part of my journey. I have to learn for my human self that, well, sales is what builds my business, right? You know, Just saying, if you want to, my website's there, go check it out. Got merch, got digital products, everything you need for this journey from business expansion to just self-awareness. It's all up to you. But this is the part of it that I'm laughing because I'm like, even that felt forced. But I wanted to do it in a playful way because yes, I still have to monetize and live off of my life that I want to create. I still need support in that way. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's not just gonna happen overnight, and I respect that. That's the part of my ego journey that I have to learn and respect. My soul journey is keep talking. Someone's listening. It's not always just about, again, the numbers and the views and all that. And I learned a long time ago, let me say that. I have never been a person who's stuck on the views. When it's time and it comes to you, it comes to you. Of course, I enjoy when people interact and engage with my content, but I am never stressed out that if I have videos on here now with 0 views from years ago. I don't care. I have inventory. What I've done is made sure that I created a brand that's a legacy that will live on as evergreen content for those who need it when they need it. That is my journey, that is my purpose, that's why I do it. Does it suck when you don't see the benefit of creation? Of course, but that's the artist side of me. As an artist, I have to know that. And again, people are gonna have their interpretation of artist, creator. I am an artist. I can draw, I can write, I can mold things. That's another side of my life that I don't share because it's for me, right? The writing part, more people see a little bit of, but there's other projects and things that I'm working on that are, I have a fantasy series I started. I tell people this, is it perfect? No, but I did it and I put it out there. I already know that that series is going to become exactly what it needs to become. I already know that every book is what I want it to be. Do it needs to go through some more rounds of editing? Absolutely. But for me, what I've learned is if I don't put it out there, it won't get done. Because you can always go back and edit. But if you never do it, you never did it, so it's never done. So do it. I mean, I love that reason for even when people talk about like different artists and people are always, I use him as an example, people always rag on Tyler Perry. So what? He's learned how to build content to the point that now he's at a point in life where he's financially stable and now he can go back and worry about editing. He can go back and worry about how he tells his stories. He can go back and listen to the nuance, but at the time he was in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you just gotta do. It's not about being perfect, right? And some people, they want it to be perfect the first time and guess what? It works out. That's beautiful, but that's not gonna be all of our journey. That's why I say the spiritual journey, you have to know that no matter how much you do everything perfectly right, set up your altar, pray every day, be a good person, eat right, do exercise, that doesn't guarantee you success in this physical, tangible world. It doesn't. It does guarantee you success in the afterlife. I genuinely believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. I have faith in knowing that because I am living as a good person and I'm not going out of my way to be maliceful or hurt people, that my soul will go to whatever energy of density it resonates with, right? When we talk about heaven and hell, it's a density. If you are living in darkness all the time and all this just trying to hurt and get revenge and be plotting and planning, well, guess what? When your soul goes back, it goes back to density. It goes back to darkness. And I'm not saying darkness is bad, but darkness is where all creation happens. And creation is not clean. It's splitting, it's brutal, it's the seeds opening and the going into the earth and growing pains and ripping and tearing. What do you think birth is? Ripping and tearing and blood and going, right? That's that. With death is the same thing. When you gotta go back, sometimes it's beautiful and it's graceful and sometimes it's painful. But life itself, once you find the maturity to understand that, okay, I am balanced within myself and I know who I am, then things will come to you. It resonates with you. Right now, the one thing that I had to learn about myself is I need to create more content, at least consistently as far as videos like this. It's hard because sometimes I get distracted with everything else. I don't think people realize like when they say starting a business is a lot of work, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of paperwork. Okay, the government don't make it easy for you. It's a lot of paperwork and taxes and this and that. And there's things where you're like, where's the money gonna come from? Where's this gonna come from? And that sometimes, unfortunately, overshadows the creative process, and you get lost in that, the muck of it all, that you forget the reason I'm here is just to tell my story, right? Again, I love to share information. I love to share my journey. If you want to ask me questions, ask me any questions you want, and I will give you the answer. That's who I am. That's how I've always been. So again, just remember, it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfectly clean. Yes, you'll get to a point where you can polish it and make it look nice, but then somebody's going to come along and use it. Somebody's going to come along and abuse it. Somebody's going to come along and, put their muck on it, and you're going to have to clean it off again. So what that means is, yes, you're going to get moments when you're pissed off, sad, depressed, not motivated, not wanting to do the work. But again, how long can you sit there? How long can you really stay in a place of doing nothing for yourself? I'm not saying physically, but I mean energetically, because you have to remember, energetically, you don't have to tangibly do anything. You don't have to pray. You don't have to meditate. Those are tools. All you have to do is sit with self and allow yourself to process something without burying it to the point that now you're negating its growth, right? I'm not saying let trauma grow into something, but I am saying let trauma be what trauma is. It's a damaging, messed up moment. Acknowledge it for exactly what it is. That was really messed up. I hate that happened to me. That sucks that happened to me. Why did that happen to me? And then when you get all those questions and concerns out, go back and say, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still making it. I'm still living. I'm still existing in a place that I know there's more to come. I'm not stuck. I don't feel stuck. I know that I can do more. That's the journey. Again, how you choose to live it is up to you. I can't tell you how to do it. But I do hope that you continue to live in a way that your soul feels connected to its past lives and self, so that it's open and aware to connect to the frequencies and the journeys that is calling to it, so that then the human, as the antenna, can then tune in. Because there's a lot of times when I'm thinking about stuff and I'm having anxiety and overthinking, and my body's like, calm down, we got this. This didn't happen to you for a reason, right? Everything that's ever happened to me, when I tell you down to the T, for the people I meet, to how I move, sometimes it feels slow, but that's, again, God's protection. Rushing into the fire don't mean you always gonna save somebody. You might put yourself in danger. So sometimes you have to assess the situation and see, what can I do to help save myself first, so that I can save other people, if that's really your heart's desire. And so for me, slowing down, paying attention, creating from an authentic place of self-care, self-love, and just knowing like all I can do is just give the best advice. And all I keep saying is create. That is my one thing that I want to always preach. Create, create, create. Creation doesn't have to be for others. It can simply be for self. But getting energy out when energy needs to get out is, again, how we allow to manifest and rebirth into new. That's how humans are born. Right? You took some passion and you made some babies. And then you create a life around them. And is it easy? Most people who are parents can tell you it ain't easy, but sometimes the benefits are worth it, sometimes it's not. And again, it depends on if you're on the dark side or the light side of alignment. Anywho, per usual, thank you for joining me along this spiritual journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me rant on and talk about whatever I want to talk about, because that's how I do it. Again, go check me out at epicenity.org. Link is in the bio. That is my website. You can find, again, I have an EQ shop with merch, hats, clothes. I have my blog if you want to just read some of my writing there. Other social medias, the TikTok, I've been merging more over to YouTube, so the TikTok is more so just videos that I've repurposed to put over there to come here. And I'm being very transparent about that. Love TikTok, but I love long form more so, and YouTube supports that a lot better. So yes, check out my services if you are interested. Again, I do have digital packages there where there's simple downloads. I have book for EQ consciousness on branding. Just literally, it's a $20 book. You can buy the PDF, which I have. You can just get the printout, or you can go to Amazon and get the book. Again, it's Rebirth, Rebrand, Conscious Branding, which is again just quick little exercises, quick how-tos on how to build a brand in a spiritual aspect. Again, you can build a brand for anything you want, but I still feel that in order to be a really good business owner, that you have to be spiritually connected to who you are, why you're creating, why you're doing it. So that book is there. Then I have other digital products that you can check out. So please support your boy. Help me out. I would love it. As always, besos. Mwah.